I'm Sophie.
And I'm Zach. And this is the 5th lesson, and welcome to class. Our topic for today is investigation for General English B1.
მოგესალმებით. კეთილი იყოს თქვენი დაბრუნება ჩვენს ტელესკოლაში. მე სოფო ვარ, ეს კი ზაკია. დღევანდელი ჩვენი გაკვეთილი კი შეეხება გამოძიებას.
And for the agenda today, we will of course start with the vocabulary, then roll right along to the reading comprehension, and right in the middle, we have the grammar, and lastly, we have the summary, and our favorite parts, the homework.
ვიდრე უშუალოდ გაკვეთილზე გადავიდოდეთ, მოდით ერთად გადავხედოთ დღევანდელი დღის გეგმას. ჩვენი გაკვეთილი როგორც ყოველთვის დაიწყება ლექსიკის შესწავლით. ამის შემდეგ წავიკითხავთ ტექსტს, ამას მოჰყვება გრამატიკული სავარჯიშოები, შემდეგ მოკლედ შევაჯამებთ ჩვენს გაკვეთილს და დავასრულებთ ყველასათვის საყვარელი საშინაო დავალებით. Let's start. So, Zach, have you ever witnessed shoplifting?
Ooh, yes, I have. I used to work at a supermarket, and I would see people taking things all the time and putting them in their bags and pockets.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Were you scared, frightened?
No, not at all. It wasn't dangerous, just amazing to see.
Okay, that sounds fun.
Yes. So, for our vocabulary, we will talk about investigation, and here are all the vocabulary phrases that we will use.
ახლა კი ერთად გადავიდეთ ლექსიკის ნაწილზე, თქვენს წინაშეა ის სიტყვები, რომლებსაც დღეს ერთად შევისწავლით.
So for our first phrase is to find out, and it's a phrasal verb, and it means to discover information about something.
To find out in Georgian means გარკვევა. Find out, გარკვევა, find out, გარკვევა, find out, გარკვევა.
So for our next phrasal verb, we have to look for, and it means to search for information about something.
To look for in Georgian means ძებნა. Look for, ძებნა. Look for, ძებნა. Look for, ძებნა.
And next, we have the phrasal verb to work out, and that means to figure something out or figure out information or to solve a puzzle.
To work out in Georgian means გაგება ან მიხვედრა. To work out, გაგება ან მიხვედრა. To work out, გაგება ან მიხვედრა. Our next word is to look into. Look into is another phrasal verb.
And it means in English to read about something or find information on something.
To look into in Georgian means გამოკვლევა. To look into, გამოკვლევა. To look into, გამოკვლევა. To look into, გამოკვლევა.
And next we have to turn up, and it's another phrasal verb, and in English it means for something to show up or something that surprises you.
Turn up in Georgian means გამოჩენა. Turn up, გამოჩენა. Turn up, გამოჩენა. Turn up, გამოჩენა.
To come across, it's another phrasal verb, and in English it means for something to appear by accident.
To come across in Georgian means წაწყდომა ან შემთხვევით შეხვედრა. To come across, წაწყდომა ან შემთხვევით შეხვედრა. To come across, წაწყდომა ან შემთხვევით შეხვედრა. To come across, წაწყდომა ან შემთხვევით შეხვედრა.
So now let's move on to our first vocabulary exercise, and we will match the definitions with the phrasal verbs.
ახლა კი გადავიდეთ ლექსიკის პირველ სავარჯიშოზე. თქვენს წინაშეა სიტყვები და განმარტებები. ჩვენ ერთად უნდა შევუსაბამოთ მოცემული სიტყვები, მოცემულ განმარტებებს. Let's start?
Let's start.
Our very first definition is to investigate. Zach, do you remember which phrasal verb would mean investigate?
I think so. It should be the very bottom one, to look into.
And you're absolutely right. And our next one is to try to find something. To try to find something. Which phrasal verb would be for this one?
Oh, it should be the phrasal verb to look for, the third one down.
And you're absolutely right. Let's have a look at the third one, to discover. To discover.
I think it's to find out.
You are absolutely right. Well done. And the next one is to appear unexpectedly. I remember you said something about unexpectedly.
Oh, I remember it should be to turn up.
You are absolutely right. And to solve a problem is
To work out.
You are right. And the very last one, and quite obvious one, to find something by accident.
Is the second one down, the phrasal verb to come across.
You are absolutely right.
So now let's move on to our reading activity. And we are going to talk a little bit about shoplifters.
ახლა კი გადავიდეთ წაკითხulis გააზრებაზე.
So, nowadays there are more and more shoplifters. This sudden increase is caused by a new law, according to which supermarkets ask customers to pay extra money for the plastic bag. The law was created to reduce plastic waste. As a result, a lot of customers started bringing their own bags. Customers use these bags to steal unpaid products. After these increased incidents, supermarkets decided to tighten security by using different colors for baskets, before and after payment. As a result, 40 baskets have been stolen. As said by the supermarket owners, instead of saving money as was expected, they are now losing more money than before. It is getting more and more difficult for security guards to identify shoplifters as they bring their own bags. The problem stays unsolved. So let's go on to our reading activity and decide if the given sentences are true or false.
ახლა კი გადავიდეთ კითხვის დავალებაზე და ერთად გადავწყვეტოთ მოცემული წინადადებები ჭეშმარიტია თუ არა. And our very first sentence is the shoplifting has increased in supermarkets. Zach, what do you think? Is this sentence true or false based on the text?
Oh, and from my experience, I think it's definitely true too.
And this sentence is true. As it reads in the text, in recent years, there are more and more shoplifters.
So, Sophie, the solution of having different colored baskets was successful. What do you think? Was it successful?
As I remember from the text, this sentence is false because supermarkets tried to solve the problem by using the different colored baskets, but actually customers started taking the baskets with them, so stealing the baskets. So I think this is why this approach wasn't successful at all, and the sentence is false.
And it was costing the supermarkets more money too.
True, to maintain the baskets.
And also, Sophie, the security cannot identify shoplifting. Do you think that was true or false?
I think this sentence was true because I remember you reading that supermarkets, actually security has a big trouble identifying the shoplifters as they bring bags with them. And a lot of people smuggle products in those bags.
Exactly.
And therefore they do not, of course, probably do not want to blame anyone, and therefore it's difficult for them to identify who shoplifted what.
It's a very hard job, I think.
I guess so. And our next sentence is the problem of shoplifting was caused by the new law. What do you think, Zach? Is this sentence true or false?
I think it was true because it just made people do it more and more, even though it was already happening more. It just increased it a lot more.
Yeah, their intention was definitely the best. They wanted to reduce the plastic waste, but they didn't think before that they would actually provoke shoplifting as well.
Exactly right.
So this sentence is true.
Exactly. So now let's move on to the grammar section for the past continuous.
ახლა კი გადავიდეთ გრამატიკის ნაწილზე. ჩვენ დღეს განვიხილავთ წარსულ განგრძობით დროს.
And for the past continuous, for an action which was in progress at a stated time in the past. For example, the thieves were entering the house when they were caught by the dog.
წარსული განგრძობითი დრო გამოიყენება ისეთი მოქმედებების აღსანიშნავად, რომელიც ხდებოდა მოცემულ მომენტში წარსულ დროში. წინადადებაში დრო შეიძლება არ იყოს მითითებული. მაგალითად, the thieves were entering the house.
And it is also used for an action which was in progress when another action interrupted it. We use the past continuous for the action in progress, longer action, and the past simple for the action which interrupted it, shorter action. For example, the shoplifters were trying to smuggle chocolate when the security caught them.
წარსული განგრძობითი დრო ასევე გამოიყენება ისეთ დროს, როდესაც გვაქვს ორი მოქმედება წარსულ დროში. ერთი უჩვენებს განგრძობითობას, ხოლო მეორე კი ისეთ მოქმედებას, რომელიც უკვე დასრულდა. ისეთ მოქმედებას, რომელიც უჩვენებს განგრძობითობას, შეიძლება პირობითად უწოდოთ უფრო გრძელი მოქმედება, ხოლო მეორე მოქმედებას, რომელიც დასრულდა წარსულ დროში, შეგვიძლია უწოდოთ მოკლე მოქმედება. მაგალითად, წინადადებაში the shoplifters were trying to smuggle chocolate when the security caught them. Were trying to smuggle, ეს არის გრძელი მოქმედება, რომელიც უჩვენებს განგრძობითობას და შესაბამისად გამოვიყენებთ წარსულ განგრძობით დროს, ხოლო მეორე წინადადება when the security caught them არის ეგრეთ წოდებული მოკლე მოქმედება და აქ გვჭირდება წარსული მარტივი დრო.
So, and it is also used for two or more simultaneous past actions. For example, the police officer was investigating the crime while detective was looking at the evidence.
წარსული განგრძობითი დრო ასევე გამოიყენება თანადროული მოქმედებებისთვის წარსულ დროში. მაგალითად, the police officer was investigating the crime while detective was looking at the evidence. ეს წინადადება მიუთითებს, რომ როდესაც პოლიციის ოფიცერი იძიებდა დანაშაულს, აი ამ დროს დეტექტივი უყურებდა სამხილებს.
And it is also used for to describe the atmosphere, the setting, etc. In the introduction to a story before we describe the main events. For example, it was raining outside while the thieves broke into the house.
წარსული განგრძობითი დრო ასევე გამოიხატება, როდესაც გვინდა აღვწეროთ გარემო, ან შესავალი გაუკეთოთ ისტორიას და აღვწეროთ მთავარი მოვლენები.
And now for the past continuous tense forms. For the affirmative, I, he, she, it was reading. You were, they were reading. For the interrogative, was, I, he, she, it reading. Were you, we, they reading. And for the negative, I, he, she, it wasn't reading. And you, we, they weren't reading.
იმისათვის რომ ვაწარმოოთ წარსული განგრძობითი დრო, გვჭირდება დამხმარეზმნა to be წარსულ დროში, ზმნის საწყისი ფორმა და ing დაბოლოება. მაგალითად, I was reading, you were reading, he, she, it was reading. ანალოგიურად გვჭირდება დამხმარეზმნა to be წარსულ დროში კითხვით და უარყოფით ფორმებშიც, მაგალითად was I reading, were you reading, and I was not reading, you were not reading.
So now let's go on to the grammar practice and put the verbs in brackets in past simple or past continuous.
ახლა კი გადავიდეთ გრამატიკის სავარჯიშოზე. ამ სავარჯიშოსთვის ჩვენ ერთად უნდა ჩავსვათ მოცემული ზმნები წარსულ მარტივ ან წარსულ განგრძობით ფორმებში.
So, Sophie, we have it blank when we blank out of the cinema. So, we have the verb to rain and the verb come. And which form do we use for each of those?
Therefore, the first verb in this sentence will be in past continuous and the second verb will be into past simple. For example, it was raining when we came out of the cinema. It was raining when we came out of the cinema. Am I right, Zach?
Oh, you're totally right. Great explanation. And also for number 2, He blank his leg when he blank. So we have the verbs to break and the verb to dance. What do you think we should do here?
I think here the same explanation applies. So he broke his leg when he was in the process of dancing. So the second verb shows the process of doing something, and therefore it is past continuous. The first action, on the other hand, which is the shorter action, needs to be into past simple, and therefore we have broke. Break, broke. Also remember that break is an irregular verb, and that's why it changes its form. Break, broke.
And now for number 3, she blank when the phone blank. And we have the verbs to sleep and to ring.
I believe same explanation would apply here as well. Let's determine which one is past continuous and which one would be past simple in this sentence. So I think the first action, first verb is a longer action because she was sleeping when the phone rang. The ring of the phone interrupted the action of sleeping. And that's why the first time we have past continuous and the second time we have past simple.
For this one, Sophie, while George blank a newspaper, Ellen blank TV. And we have the verbs to watch and to read.
I think we mentioned clearly when we were explaining the grammar rules that when you have two actions happening simultaneously, you need to use past continuous. This is the situation when we have two actions happening simultaneously, and therefore we would put both verbs into past continuous forms. For example, while George was reading a newspaper, Ellen was watching TV. These two actions happened at the same time in the past.
So for number 5, some minutes later, his friend blank to take him to the airport. And the verb here is to come.
I think this one is quite clear. The action is finished in the past, and therefore we have past simple. Some minutes later, his friend came to take him to the airport. Here, the time when the action finished is implied in the sentence. And do not forget that come is also an irregular verb, and therefore into the past simple form it will be came. Come, came.
So now let's move on to our next grammar exercise and put the words in the correct order.
ახლა კი ამ სავარჯიშოსთვის ჩვენ უნდა დავალაგოთ სიტყვები სწორი თანრიგობის მიხედვით. Shall we start?
Let's start.
So we have words he, breakfast, having, was, his, when, came over. So Zach, what do you think? What will be the right sentence order?
Oh, I think I know. So it should be he was having breakfast when his friends came over.
And you are absolutely right. Well done.
Thank you.
And the next one, the playing children, basketball, where, park, in, the. Do not forget that when you do this kind of exercises, you need to start with the subject. So you need to identify what is the subject, what is the verb, and what is the object. Zach?
Yeah. So the sentence is, the children were playing basketball in the park. So the subject is the children, and the verb is were playing, and the object is the basketball.
Thank you very much. And the next one, rather big one, I would say. I, park, did, friend, not, when, see, my, I, was, the, walking, in. So this one is quite a big sentence. Let's try to think. I think the sentence would start with I.
I think that's a good start, yeah.
Yeah, so then we need probably an auxiliary verb, did. Yeah. I did not see my friend when I was walking in the park. Again, two actions, one longer, one shorter, one in past continuous, another one in past simple.
Fantastic. So now for this one, we have when, we have were, we have computer, we have called, we have games, we have playing, and we have you. And this is a bit of a longer sentence too.
You're very right. So again, we need to identify the subject. I think here the subject would be we, and then we need a verb. We were playing computer games when you called. Again, two verbs, were playing and called, one in past continuous, the second one in past simple. And it's also interesting to see that called in this case is a regular verb, and therefore it just adds ending ed.
And for the last one, I, my, saw, was, the, getting, thief, house, while, into, he. So Sophie, what do you think is the correct order?
I think it needs to be, I saw the thief while I was getting into my house. Again, two actions, one in past continuous, another one in past simple. I saw, see, saw, irregular verb, the thief while he was getting, past continuous.
Now let's move on to the summary. First, we discussed the vocabulary about investigation. And then we moved on to the reading about shoplifting and how prevalent it is. And then last, we went over the grammar about past continuous.
ახლა კი ერთად შევაჯამოთ დღევანდელი გაკვეთილი. დღეს ჩვენ შევისწავლეთ ახალი სიტყვები, ასევე წავიკითხეთ ტექსტი და განვიხილეთ გრამატიკა წარსულ განგრძობით დროზე. ახლა კი დროა გადავიდეთ საშინაო დავალებაზე.
So please, for your homework, please describe a given picture. And please upload your homework to the address on the screen.
საშინაო დავალებისთვის გთხოვთ აღწერეთ მოცემული სურათი. შეგიძლიათ თქვენი აღწერა გამოაგზავნოთ ეკრანზე მოცემულ მისამართზე. იქ ასევე დაგხვდებათ დავალების ნიმუში, რომელიც შეგიძლიათ გამოიყენოთ. შევხვდებით მომავალ გაკვეთილზე. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you. See you next time.